a spooky lunch with goosebumps. Attack of the Jack-o'-lanterns by R.L. Stein. Chapter 21. Our screams rose up shrilly, cutting through the night air like wailing sirens. The pumpkin head fell from Tabby's hand and bounced heavily on the ground. Bright orange flames shot out of his eyes and mouth. Lee still gripped the other pumpkin head between his hands, but he dropped it when the jagged mouth began to move. The fiery heads grinned up at us from the grass. Oh, I uttered a low moan of terror and staggered back. I wanted to run away, to run as fast as I could and not look back. But I couldn't take my eyes off the two heads grinning up at us from the wet grass. Ooh, I uttered a low moan of terror and staggered back. I wanted to run away, to run as fast as I could and not look back. But I couldn't take my eyes off the two heads grinning up at us from the wet grass. As I stared, my heart pounded and my legs began to shake. Someone grabbed my arm. Walker! He held on to me. His hand was as cold as ice. With his other hand, he pointed to the two headless bodies. They stood in their dark, flowing costumes. They hadn't moved. That the spot between their shoulders where their heads had rested was flat and smooth, as if the pumpkin heads had been balanced there, but never attached. Never attached. Tabby and Lee huddled together beside me. Tabby's tiara was missing. Her hair had come unpinned. It fell in wet tangles over her face. Lee's trick-or-treat bag had toppled onto his side. A pile of candy had spilled over the grass, inches away from one of the pumpkin's heads. The flames inside the heads danced and flickered, and then the jagged mouths began to move. The smiles grew wider, the triangle eyes narrowed. An ugly laugh escaped their mouth, an evil, dry sound, more like a throat clearing, more like a cough than a laugh. No, I moaned. Beside me, I heard Walker gasp. Lee swallowed hard. Tabby was holding on to the sleeve of his bee costume with both hands. She pulled them back until they were standing behind Walker and me. The heads laughed together, flames flickering inside them. Their two bodies moved quickly. They reached out long arms and grabbed the heads up from the grass. Expected them to place the heads back on their shoulders. But they didn't. They held the heads in front of their chests. Another dry laugh. The pumpkin mouths twisted on the dark round faces. The eyes stared blankly at us, bright orange, then shadowy, flickering with the flames. I realized I was squeezing Walker's arm. He didn't even seem to notice. I let go and took a deep breath. Who are you? I called to the two creatures. My voice came out high and tidy. Who are you? And what do you want? They laughed their ugly laughs again. They're 22. Who are you? I choked out again, shouting over their dry, crackling laughter. Where are Shane and Shanna? Where are our friends? Flames hissed from the two heads. Their ragged orange grins grew wider. Drew, let's try one more time to run away, Walker whispered. Maybe if we catch them by surprise. We both spun around and started to run. Tabby and Lee came stumbling after us. My legs felt so wobbly and weak, I didn't think I could run. My heart pounded so hard, I struggled to breathe. Run! Walker cried breathlessly, pulling my arm. Drew, faster! We didn't get far. Uttering their shrills, frightening hisses, the creatures whirled around us once again, trapping us, holding us prisoner inside their circle of flames. No way we could run away. No way we could escape from them. Peering over the flying flames, I searched desperately up and down the street. No one in sight. Nothing moved. No cars, no people, not even a dog or a cat holding their heads at their waists. The two creatures stepped up to us. They stood over us menacingly, raising the red, glowing heads high above their bare shoulders. More houses, more houses. The jack-o'-lantern lips pushed out the words. The red eyes stared down at us. More houses, more houses. You cannot stop. You must keep on trick or treating. Pick up your bags. Pick them up. Now, one of them growled. Her head held up between two hands. She gazed down at us, her jagged lips forming an evil sneer. We don't want to trick or treat, Lee wailed, holding on to Tabby. We want to go home, Tabby cried. More houses, more houses, more houses. The pumpkin heads continued their hissing chant. They bumped us together. They bumped and pushed us. We had no choice. Wearily, we picked up our trick or treat bags from where they had fallen on the grass. They moved behind us, chanting in their low, dry whispers. More houses, more houses. They pushed us to the first house on the block. They pushed us up onto the front stoop. Then they hovered close behind us. How long do we have to trick or treat? Tabby demanded. The pumpkin heads grinned together. Forever, they declared. Chapter 23. A woman came to the door and dropped packages of Hershey's Kisses into our bags. You kids are out awfully late, she said. Do you live around here? No, I replied. We don't really know where we are. We're in a strange neighborhood, and we're being forced to trick or treat by two headless pumpkin creatures. And they say they're going to make us trick or treat forever. Help us, please. You've got to help us. Ha ha, that's good, the woman laughed. That's very funny. You have a very good imagination. She closed the door before I could get out another word. At the next house, we didn't even bother to ask for help. We knew no one would believe us. Your bags are so full, the woman exclaimed. You must have been trick or treating for hours. We we like candy a lot, Walker replied wearily. I glanced back at the pumpkin heads. They were motioning impatiently. They wanted us to move on to the next house. We said goodbye to the woman and made our way across the front yard. Our trick or treat bags were heavy, so we dragged them along the grass. As we headed to the next driveway, Tabby hurried up beside me. What are we going to do? She whispered in my ear. How are we going to get away from these monsters? I shrugged. I didn't know how to answer her. I'm so scared, Tabby confessed. You don't think these pumpkin creatures really plan to make us trick or treat forever, do you? What do they really want? Why are they doing this to us? I don't know, I said, swallowing hard. I could see that Tabby was about to cry. Lee was walking with his head down. He dragged his bulging trick or treat bag behind him. He was shaking his head, muttering to himself. We stepped up to the next porch and rang the bell. A middle aged man in bright yellow pajamas opened the door. Trick or treat, we cried wearily. He dropped the little Tootsie Rolls into our bags. Very late, he muttered. Do your parents know you're still out? We dragged on to the next house and the next. I kept waiting for a chance to escape, but the two creatures never let us out of their sight. They stayed right with us, keeping in the shadows. Their eyes glowed red from the deepening fire inside their heads. More houses, they chanted, forcing us to cross the street and do the long row of houses on the other side. More houses. I'm so scared, Tabby repeated to me in a trembling whisper. So is Lee. We're so scared. We feel sick. I started to tell her I felt the same way, but we both gasped when we saw someone walking along the street. A man in a blue uniform. At first, I thought he was a policeman, but as he stepped under a street light, I saw that he wore a blue work uniform. He had a blue baseball cap on his head. He carried a large black lunchbox in one hand. He must be coming home from work, I told myself. He was whistling softly to himself, walking with his head down. I don't think he saw us. Tabby changed that. Help! She screamed. Sir, please help us. The man raised his head, startled. He squinted at us. Tabby began running across the grass to him. The rest of us followed, dragging our heavy trick-or-treat bags. Help us, please, Tabby pleaded shrilly. You've got to save us. Four of us hurtled breathlessly into the street. We surrounded the startled man. He narrowed his eyes at us and scratched his brown curly hair. What's wrong, kids? Are you lost? He asked. Monsters, Lee exploded. Headless jack-o'-lantern monsters. They captured us. They're forcing us to trick or treat. The man started laughing. No, it's true, Tabby insisted. You've got to believe us. You've got to help us. Hurry, Lee cried. The man scratching his hair again. He squinted at us hard, studying our faces. Hurry, please, hurry, Lee wailed. I stared back at the startled man. Would he help us? Chapter 24. You've got to help us, Lee pleaded. Okay, I'll go along with the joke, the man said, rolling his eyes. Where are your monsters? There, I cried. We all turned back to the front yard. No one there. The pumpkin heads were gone, disappeared. Tabby gasped. Lee's mouth dropped open. Where did they go? Walker murmured. They are standing right there, Tabby insisted, both of them, holding their heads in their hands. Really? The man let out a long sigh. You kids have a good Halloween, he said wearily. But give me a break, okay? I just got off of work and I'm beat. He shifted his black lunchbox to the other hand. Then we watched him make his way up the driveway. He disappeared around the back of the house. Let's get out of here, Lee cried. But before we could run, the two pumpkin heads leaped out from behind a low hedge. The red flames hissed inside their heads. Their jagged mouths were turned down in angry snares. More houses, they insisted, rasping the words together. More houses. You can't stop trick-or-treating. But we're so tired, Tabby protested. Her voice cracked again. I saw tears wetting her eyes. Let us go, please, Lee begged. More houses, more. You can never stop. Never. I can't, Lee cried. My bag is full. Look. He held out the bulging trick-or-treat bag to the pumpkin heads. Candy bars spilled over the top. Mine is full too, Walker declared. It's filled to the top. I can't squeeze another piece of candy corn in it. We have to go home, Tabby cried. Our bags are totally full. That's no problem, one of the pumpkin heads replied. No problem? Tabby wailed. No problem? Start eating, the pumpkin head ordered. Huh? We all gasped. Start eating, he insisted. Start eating. Hey, no way, Lee protested. We're not going to stand here and the creatures appeared to rise up. Bright yellow flames shot out from their eyes. A roar of hot wind escaped their jagged, snarling mouths. The wind burnt my face. We all knew what would happen if we refused to do as they said. We ended up inside the flames. Lee grabbed the chocolate bar from the top of his trick-or-treat bag. He tore off the wrapper with a trembling hand and he shoved the candy into his mouth. We all started to eat candy. We had no choice. I shoved the Hershey bar into my mouth and started to chew. I couldn't even taste it. A big gob stuck to my teeth, but I shoved in more and kept chewing. Faster, faster, the pumpkin heads ordered. Please, Tabby begged, with a mouthful of red licorice. We can't. Faster, eat, eat. I shoved an entire bag of candy corn into my mouth and struggled to chew. I saw Walker pawing through his bag, looking for something he could eat quickly. Faster, eat! The fiery heads demanded, floating over us. Eat! Eat! Lee choked down his fourth Three Musketeers bar. He grabbed the Milky Way and started to unwrap it. I'm going to be sick, Tabby declared. Faster, faster, called the raspy command. No, really, I feel sick, she cried. Eat more, eat faster. Lee started to choke. A gob of pink taffy shot out of his mouth. Tabby slapped him on the back until he stopped coughing. More, faster, the pumpkin heads ordered. I can't, Lee cried in a hoarse whisper. The creatures leaned over him, angry flames shooting from their eyes. Lee grabbed a crunch bar, tore off the wrapper, and bit into. All four of us huddled there on the curb, gobbling down candy, chewing as fast as we could, forcing it down, then shoving in some more, trembling, frightened, feeling sick. We had no idea that the biggest horror was still to come. Chapter 25. I can't eat anymore, Tabby choked out. We had been stuffing ourselves with candy for several minutes. Tabby had chocolate running down her chin, and I saw chocolate stuck in the tangles of her blonde hair. Lee was bent over on the grass. He held his stomach and groaned. I don't feel so hot, he murmured. He let out a long, loud burp and groaned again. I never want to see another candy bar in my life, Walker whispered to me. I tried to reply, but my mouth was full. More houses, one of the pumpkin heads ordered. More houses, more trick-or-treating. No, please, Tabby begged. Bent over on the grass, Lee let out another long burp. It's almost midnight, Tabby protested. We have to go home. There are many houses to go, a pumpkin head told her, narrowing its fiery eyes. Houses forever, trick or treat forever. But we feel sick, Lee moaned, holding his stomach. We can't do any more houses tonight. Everyone has gone to sleep, Walker told the pumpkinheads. No one will answer the door this late. They will in this neighborhood, the pumpkinhead replied. No problem in this neighborhood, the other creature agreed. In this neighborhood, you can trick or treat forever. But, I sputtered. I knew it was no use. The fiery creatures were going to force us to keep going. They weren't going to listen to our complaints, and they weren't going to let us go home. More houses, more trick or treat forever. Tabby helped Lee to his feet. She picked up his trick or treat bag and placed it in his hand. Then she brushed her hair out of her face and picked up her own bag. The four of us trooped across the street, dragging the bags beside us. The night air had gone cold and heavy. A strong breeze rattled the trees and sent brown leaves scuttling past our feet. Our parents must be so worried, Lee murmured. It's really late. They should be worried, Tabby declared in a trembling voice. We may never see them again. The porch light at the first house was still on. The pumpkinheads forced us onto the porch. It's too late to trick or treat, Lee protested. But we have no choice. I rang the bell. We waited, shivering, feeling heavy and sick from all the candy we had forced down. Slowly, the front door opened, and we all gasped in shock. To be continued.